Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we dig in deep to analyze the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. I'm Andy Nelson from The Next Reel.
And I'm Pete Wright, also from The Next Reel.
We are talking about Jon Favreau's 2008 film, Iron Man, where all of the MCU craziness began. And joining us again, we have Eric Nash from the Watchmen Minute Podcast. Hey, Eric.
Yeah, I'm so glad to get in on the ground floor with this movie because I've really loved almost all of the movies. There's a couple of lower spots, but you know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to years from now to finally get to talk about some of those and see what we think. But yes, today on this show, we are, of course, talking about Iron Man Minute 28. And the minute starts with Yinsen thinking about his family and ends with some serious welding going on. This is, we get a little bit more of this backgammon game and a pretty nice little conversation that we have between Tony and Yinsen. It's really interesting, especially in retrospect, after having seen the film and knowing how things play out. Not that we know how things play out, Pete, because we've only seen 28 minutes of this film so far.
The future, the rest of this movie doesn't exist.
Right. But watching the performance that Sean Tobe gives here as Yinsen when he's talking about his family, it is a really poignant and touching moment. I think it's pretty powerful. Not to mention the way that it is a perfect yin-yang with the talking about Tony and his family.
It is, and it makes Tony, it makes him actually feel again for us. We've had a couple of these little moments where we get to see a little bit of Tony's pride, a little bit of Tony kind of choked up over his technology, but here we have that great line, so you are a man with everything and nothing. And it sounds so trite when I say it, but when Yinsen says it to Tony Stark, it actually means something, and it's a great little moment of sensitivity before we jump back into the mania that is their relationship with these terrorists and this crazy machine.
Especially because their relationship never was developed quite as extensively in the original comic. We knew that Tony was kind of this rich playboy who was always hooking up with all the chicks, and he was a billionaire and he was a scientific genius. All of that was in the comics, and Yinsen was certainly in the comics, but allowing for them to bond this way, where you have this really touching, poignant moment between the two, gives so much heft and weight to it. I feel like this is a beautiful, beautiful moment that allows these guys to just grow their relationship a little bit more into another phase. I just think it's really touching.
I do too. It's really well earned.
In this minute, we really get to see the work starting on the Mark I suit. We had the reveal before, but here we actually get to see some hardcore work going. We get to see some welded pieces that look like they might fit onto a body part or something like that. It's pretty interesting. It's interesting the way that they are constructing it. I'm assuming that in order to continually fool the guards the entire time they're building this, they're doing it in little chunks that you could pass as something that might go into a missile until that final moment where they just kind of almost like Voltron or something, where they have all these pieces that they just finally click them all together. And there it is, this great big suit.
But okay. Let's just back up a little bit. All right. Look, if you're going to be hiding stuff like that, right after the terrorists open the little shieldy thing and look in the window, now we see just how stupid the terrorists are, because the next shot is this giant pan looking down at the table that's showing pieces, not just pieces like, oh, here's the chest plate, but the plans in these little books. The plans that show pieces, the final plan shows the finished chest. Nothing on that table looks like a missile. It all looks like robot pieces.
Clearly, when we see Abu peek through the door, the translation that, I've been having the Reddit translator community help with some of these bits that are in foreign languages. The Arabic, as he's walking away, is like, all good. Like, he's like, yeah, no, there's nothing going on here.
Nothing. No.
He is the epitome of the cop in Naked Gun. It's just like, please disperse. There is nothing to see here. He totally buys into exactly what he's saying as he peeks through the door.
Totally.
Well, and way over to the left when he peeks in, that's what looks like, a missile to me. Is that part of what we've seen prior to my minutes?
I think that, we saw Tony pulling the missiles apart because he was pulling some of the palladium out of the missile. It looked like out of something in the nose pieces or something. Uh-huh. Clearly, you're right. It definitely looks like they're doing some sort of surgery on a missile there. And maybe that's a great catch. Maybe it is something that Tony of Yinsen have kind of left there to make people think that, this is what they're working on. And it's kind of a nice decoy while they continue to fiddle with these other things.
Yeah, okay. I might be swayed to give you that, but it just feels like a stretch.
Well, it's again, Abu is not the greatest of guards.
He's just the worst. He is the worst. That's why what's his name needs to eat more. He just spends his days eating peanut butter because he's just given up. He has just given up, and the calories don't even matter to him anymore.
Right. We got another great piece of the music track here. The music really kicks in as we see the gear on the table and that beautiful tracking shot over everything. And it's just a nice piece that just helps so much in defining what exactly they're doing here. And I love the way it just kind of builds to intensity as we see him kind of doing the welding there toward the end of this minute.
I do too. I think it's just a really nice, this is, again, these little pieces that fit together. I think this is one of the things that Favreau does really nicely is that, he's giving us all these elements, either the music or it's the visuals. Even as we're nitpicking the visuals, it is still a strong shot, this tracking shot, as we lead up to the welding. And as these pieces come together, it's like the suit. It's a metaphor for the suit coming together into this one great thing. And I feel like it's, it just feels so good to watch this minute, to kind of have a sense of where it's going and to know that you're about to be, rewarded.
That's very much the case. I do, though, have to point out I'm assuming it's a cold cup of tea or something that's...
I was wondering, yeah.
that's sitting amongst all the pieces as they're busy working. I guess that's a sign of how busy they're working, that they don't even finish the cup.
Be.
Second 51, that's when it's in the middle of the pan.
Right. Just sitting there, the little cup of tea. This is an interesting scene because we do have, paired with the deleted scene that we had last minute, this scene has, I guess you could almost say it was like an alternate storyline for Abu, and it reeks of reshoots. Like clearly they had shot this, they had edited this other storyline into the film, and then decided, you know what, we don't like the way this is going. We need to rework this. And then they came back to reshoot with Abu, and because clearly he's in later. The way that this alternate scene plays out, Abu actually, when they're having their backgammon game, he actually comes in and has this whole conversation with them about laundry. And as this is a moment from an earlier bit that we had talked about, Eric, where in the script, when Tony is first asking, when he finally decides, you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make all this stuff, and he commits to moving forward with these plans, even though he's got this ulterior motive to escape. When he is telling Yinsen all these things that he needs, I need acetylene and propane and helmets and a soldering setup and smelting cups and all these things. At the very end of that, there was a comedy beat that they, I think, smartly cut out, where he's saying all these bits of clothes that he needs, and he needs spices and tea and all these things. And then he says, and a washing machine, top load, which seems so silly. And then it has in the script, Abu's eyes bulge. He gets in Tony's face. And it's this kind of silly moment from earlier in the film. But watching this deleted scene makes me think that they must have shot that scene in order to have this moment where we have this reveal in this scene where Tony actually got the washing machine, because now we have Abu coming in to complain about the laundry that he's having Tony do for him, it's an interesting little moment.
I don't know how I feel about that. It's another one of those that maybe, is that taking it too far? The humanizing bits, those sort of humanizing comedy bits, that here we see superheroes. I don't know. goosing one another like that?
It's a moment that I struggle with because, again, it is, I like keeping Abu and Raza much more threatening. And when we have Abu talking to him about laundry, I struggle with that, just like I struggled with Raza eating peanut butter in the previous minute. And it's funny, if again, getting translated from Reddit, this is what the conversation is. He comes in, he's like, prisoners, to be honest, Mr. Tony, the dealing with, and I don't know how accurate this is. It's a little awkward, and I don't know if they're doing a direct translation and the speaking is just awkward, or if the translation itself is awkward. But to be honest, Mr. Tony, the dealing with you is like, where are we? When? And then he's speaking in English. When finish? He goes and he grabs the pile, and then he says, I swear to God 3 times, if my wife had done this, I would have already divorced her. Colored and white. And then they have that whole thing about, no, I washed them separately. I only folded them together. And then I like Tony's line, this is the first time I've done laundry. And then Abu sees them play, and he says, play, let me watch. And then he says, be careful. When he's watching Yinsen making a move, he says, be careful. No, do it like this. And then he says he's the champion of this city in Egypt. And then as he's leaving, he says, keep an eye on him. And that's when we have this interesting reveal in this moment where he turns around and sees that Raza has been in here watching him through this scene. And Raza pulls out his gun, shoots him point blank, and Abu falls to the floor dead. And that is the end of Abu.
What? No. What's happening here? That's awful. Really? Am I the only one incensed by that, even that intention was penned to paper?
I guess they're trying to show how tough a guy Raza is.
I don't care for it.
He's not going to take any laundry hijinks from his men.
There will be no laundry hijinks. What a terrible mashup. What a hat on a hat kind of a moment. Like, I don't see it.
Could Raza be upset with Abu for becoming too socialized with Tony and Yinsen? Maybe is that where his anger and thus murder comes from?
That's my sense. It seems like he is incensed because of this relationship that Abu has developed with these guys, and here he is having Tony do his laundry. And sure, I can buy that it's very frustrating for him to walk in and see this happening. And I can see him doing that, especially to kind of tell his other men, you don't do this. You need to treat these guys like prisoners and get the job done. And actually, in the script, Raza does say, you have till tomorrow to assemble my missile. And that really does put a cap on this time crunch that all of a sudden Tony is given. So it's pretty interesting to see the way that it ends up playing out. But I don't like it at all. I like seeing Abu, and I like the fact that his storyline will continue until later points in this film.
Yeah, no, the way, as far as we can imagine, the way we lose Yinsen is
Abu.
It ends up. I mean, Abu. Yeah, it ends up being a much better, much more satisfying.
Have you guys already talked about one of the other guards walking with Abu, looking in?
We have, yes. This is a moment, right, as Abu is walking up, we do have his 2 regular guards. I'm
pretty sure the one on the left, I saw his name. I was like, oh, okay, wow, he's in this. Okay. And it's because this is a musician, rock guy that helped with providing guitar music for the film.
I don't think you're thinking of these 2 guys are the regular. No, Tom Morello is, he will have a very prominent point later in the film. We've only seen him very briefly outside. These 2 guys are the 2 who are always with Abu when he's going around. This is Ahmed playing Ahmed and Fahim Fazli playing Omar.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, Tom Morello has his moment that he has is going to be a fun one to talk about. No, I mean, like I said, he's been outside very briefly, but no, I love the fact that he did get to pop up and be in this film. And he also does some of the music, like you mentioned, some of the guitar for this. He also does more in Iron Man 2. So, what else? Any other thoughts on this minute, you guys?
That's what I got.
That's all for me.
All right. Well, again, Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can guests learn more about you and your podcasts?
Again, Watchmen Minute is very easily Googleable and findable that way. But just in case, realpodcastnetwork.com/Watchmen Minute is our main place on the web.
Fantastic. You can find out more about the Watchmen Minute over there. And I guess soon, depending on when you're listening to this, maybe it's already out, the Almost Famous Minute. So that'll be a fun one.
Later this year.
Quite
sure.
Well, everybody, that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the show for free at marvelmovieminute.com. Join us over in our Discord chat room and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Next Reel. And if you like what we do and you want to support us and get some cool stuff, become a patron over at patreon.com/thenextreel. Until next time, true believers.